What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Monday TRIfecta podcast. Alan Hoshida, Mick Miller, and we also have another Alan Hoshida. Looky here. The investigation is still ongoing as to who took Adam West, a.k.a. Batman.
But the Sweets have been kind enough to offer me a new one, so we're going to go get him at some point.
Also, Blackman is missing a bat, so we are having some serious, criminal
there must have
activity.
Been an earthquake or something, and they all fell, and things happened. Russell Wilson's intact.
Yeah, well, he's, doing pretty well. Also, you had a very, very interesting take as to what's going on, like a Toy Story kind of deal, where these things come to life.
Yeah, we told about it last week when we had Joker out here. I don't have my other action figures. One day we should set up a whole action figure thing. I also have an action figure collection.
You want to give a shout out to your IG where people can go follow?
No, I can't do that on this.
No, not on this one. Okay. Well, you don't get the privilege of following Alan Hoshida's personal Instagram accounts.
Toy account.
Toy account.
Yeah, toy account.
Lot to get into. Playoffs are in full swing, whether it be volleyball or football, and basketball is just around the corner.
Soccer too, but we're all out of that one.
Yeah, we don't have any more teams.
Bowed
left.
out.
So shout out to all our teams that performed, but you guys are no longer in the playoffs. So this one's going to be on. Let's start with football. The MCC champs went down against Mount Si. Talking to Coach Graff leading up to this game, he said that they had a quarterback that was better than the quarterback at Meade, and boy, did they ever.
Yeah, dude, Clay Millen. Shout out to Clay Millen. I know we don't give shout outs to opposing players, but that dude can throw the ball. He can spin it. He was spinning it so well that I had to change the focus speed, the zoom speed on my camera so that I could zoom out faster so I can catch the ball while it's going, so I could keep it in frame. And he's good. His brother plays at Oregon. He already has an offer at Oregon, and he has an offer from Arizona. He's just a junior, threw for 466. And you would think that the defense played bad, and really, there was points where I was like, this Chihuahua defense isn't playing that bad in this game. Their front seven was actually really good. Bridger and company were getting pressure on him, but he could just get the ball out faster than they can get there. They still had, I'd say, 5 or 6 sacks, but it was just the sheer velocity that he was throwing. I don't think the cornerbacks for Chihuahua were used to that. The ball getting on him so quick, and they couldn't react fast enough. Like against Meade, the guy was a good quarterback, but he didn't have the velocity, so you could turn your head and get the ball or knock it away. But when Clay was spinning it to his receivers, one of the guys' name was Holt, it was on him, and it was an easy catchable ball, because if you ask any receiver, if it's a tight spiral with good velocity, receivers like that ball because it's easier to catch than maybe one that's kind of spinning out of control. And so it was impressive to see. Like I said, I don't think the Chihuahua defense played as bad as giving up 46 and 466 yards through the air. Their run game wasn't really existent for Mount Si, but it just was a case that I think the Mount Si team at this point in the year was a little bit better. The Wildcats seemed to be a little bit more healthy.
And health has been an issue for Chihuahua
Yeah,
all
they've
season.
been rotating through from week 2, actually. Kobe Singleton goes down week 2, and then pretty much every week someone was going down. Kobe Young was on the sidelines with a boot on and a scooter, so he was done. And then you have Gabe Shills battling a foot injury all season long. And really, that's a huge shout out to him, because he has a similar foot injury as Cam Newton has. Mm-hmm. And Cam Newton is not playing football right now. He can't even play football because of just the pain that he's in. So shout out to Gabe for really toughing it out, wanting to play out there his senior year. He had a couple really big runs early on in that first quarter that set up their opening touchdown after a big play by Marvell Cooks and company, intercepted it, took it down, and he looked like he was going to break away, and I don't know if the foot kind of clenched on him and he got caught, but he was in the green. So yeah, it was just one of those cases that I think Mount Si on Saturday was the better team, and they got it done. So unfortunately, Chihuahua's season comes to an end, but they're relatively young.
Yeah, I mean, they got a sophomore quarterback who has 2 years of varsity starts under his belt. So that experience, not only does he have that, he has playoff experience now, which he's played deep into the playoffs. My main takeaways was the quarterback was putting it on target, and that's something that Meade quarterback didn't do, and a lot of quarterbacks at this level don't do. The velocity you talked about, but his accuracy. Like, you talk to receivers like in high school, college, or the pros, if a quarterback can put the ball on your chest or put it close enough to your chest where you can make a play on it and then turn up field, completely changes how the game's played. Where in high school, I feel like a lot of quarterbacks just throw it up, and if you got dudes on the outside, they can make a play. That wasn't that when they played Mount Si. Mount Si's quarterback put it on his receiver's chest, so either they made the reception and went down immediately and just moved the chains, or he put it in a position where they could make a play on the ball and there was nothing that the defender could do and then turn it upfield.
That's a great point because there was a couple catches. Obviously, the first touchdown, he cut it between two defenders right on the money. There's another play that wasn't in our highlight package, but he threw a ball up deep, and Dion had good coverage. Like, it wasn't the cornerbacks didn't play great. They just couldn't make plays in time, and the ball was a back, like, over the top, and the guy one-arms it. Dion's right here. I believe it was Dion or Preston, one of the two, and he still caught it. One arm, and, like, the wide receivers were just making plays. They just made more plays than Chihuahua did, and Chihuahua's offense came to a huge halt. I believe from the second quarter until the third or late third quarter, maybe even into the fourth, they didn't have a first down. And no matter how good your defense is playing, as we've seen at every level, if they're on the field all game,
that defense is going to get tired.
They're going to get tired. And so the offense needed to get going, and it just didn't get going. But, yeah, the ball were on the money. Yeah. There weren't very many balls that were overthrown or underthrown, or they were just, it was really well done. I will say his throwing motion, if I was critiquing, because, I know a lot about quarterbacks. Yeah. I played for long. But he has a lower release. Like, he kind of really throws it, kind of like Phillip Rivers. So I don't know if you want to get the elbow up or whatever, but I'm sure he's fine.
This level with the offers that he's got, I'm sure he's fine.
I'm sure he's fine.
Just kind of thinking about, like, the injuries, because obviously Chihuahua's season's over, so now we can kind of look back and reflect. I talked to Gabe at a volleyball game last week, and he said that he was going to, he wasn't healthy, and so he told me he was going to leave it all on the line because that's all he can do, which shows me that that kid's got a lot of heart, he's got a lot of character, and he left it on the field. Had Gabe Shields been healthy in this game, like you said, the time of possession was so astronomically different. With a running back like Gabe Shields, your offense is able to move the chains and be on the field longer. That puts less pressure on a sophomore quarterback to make plays. And also, if we're playing what-if scenarios, and I don't like to do what-ifs, but in this scenario, if Kobe Singleton had been on the field, he's like a three-star guy, right?
For one of the sports, I don't know which one, he'll probably pick at some point.
Yeah.
But he's definitely a dude.
And he is a great defensive back. Having him be able to go up against one of the dudes, because I'm pretty sure they had a receiver that caught for 160, 170 some yards.
Yeah.
You put Kobe Singleton, who
is Singleton. Going to, sorry, I was thinking Kobe Young. Sorry, my bad.
No, Kobe Singleton. My bad. Yeah. Too many Kobe's
he's
on
a shutdown
Chihuahua.
Corner. Yeah.
But yeah, like he's gonna go play on the next level, no matter what. Yeah. Had he been healthy this year, he would have been. Who knows where he would have went. If Kobe Singleton would have been healthy, and shoot, if the other Kobe would have been healthy as well.
They also had an O-lineman that I saw at the chiropractor earlier in the week who wasn't playing, and he's a big boy.
And I also heard that Bridger had a meniscus injury that has been nagging him, but didn't really get out because he's just one of those kids where he's tough and he just wants to go out. Chihuahua just didn't have the luck of the Irish this year as it pertains to injuries.
Going into the year, if they have that team that they broke camp with all season long, I mean, Caleb Alvarez was not playing for a couple weeks. Benny Alfredness, we don't even say his name this year very much. Last year he was a great piece, and this year he was injured, had an ankle injury, and he came back. Their kicker this week, Evan Dawes, was hurt. Like, if
the one position that barely gets hurt.
So every single, or was on the sidelines. I don't know if he was hurt. I shouldn't say that. He was just on the sidelines, not playing. But injuries, it's huge, and no one's going to make excuses, but I would have loved to see, I guess more of the story is, I would have loved to see a healthy Chihuahua team deep in the playoffs. It's never going to happen because every team has injuries, just like we're going to talk about with Kennewick. They've had injuries, so they've had some major injuries. But, yeah, I would have loved to see a healthy Chihuahua group go against Mount Zion, see how far they could go, because I still think, at breaking camp, they were still probably one of the top 5 teams in the state.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the end of the season for the Chihuahua Riverhawks, and we're going to move over to the 3A, which Kennewick had what I'm calling the game of the year and potentially the game of the decade, because from the kickoff to the end of this game, and it did go to overtime, so we got a little bit extra free football. Man, this was entertaining. The first 2 drives, Kennewick defense, what lived up to the billing that I've talked about with them. Great up front 7 and secondary that makes plays. Scoop and score on the second play of the game. Simeon Howard takes it all to the end zone. I went back to the footage. The quarterback was definitely down. But, they don't have replay. You can't go to the booth.
Yeah, they don't have replay. So people on sidelines were like, oh, there's a camera.
Yeah, don't ask me. I'm not going to, unless you, slide a couple $100 bills under the table. But even then, I'm a man of character. And then the second, second possession.
Ethics.
Interception. So this defense in the first quarter forces 3 turnovers, and it looks like it's going to blow away a game, 14-0. then they come right back, and the other team, Yelm, yes, that's the team that I'm looking for. Yelm ran a RPO.
The Tornadoes.
Yeah, the Tornadoes ran this really, really frustrating RPO. And the quarterback was very good at reading the defensive end. And when the defensive end went to the back, he knew to keep it and run it, and he hit gaps extremely well. They come back, tied up 14-14. Then in the third and fourth quarter, it's just trading touchdowns. Miles scores 65-yard touchdown, punches it in from 2. Yelm's quarterback, gets into the end zone. Running back gets into the end zone. So we go to overtime, and Kennewick gets the first possession. It's like college. So they did it at the 25-yard line, and we're going back and forth. Whoever can stop the other person or whatever, and that's how it's going to end. So Kennewick scores on a crazy play. Elijah Tanner looks like Russell Wilson. It's a rollout play. But he's got nothing on that side. So he comes back left and over his body, cross body, throws it up, and I'm shooting, and I'm just like, oh gosh, don't do this. And then all of a sudden, out of frame, Simeon Howard comes in and snags it out of the air, and Simeon, he might be a Hoshida hero worthy because he had a huge game on Saturday.
Yeah. I got to do my Hoshida heroes. I still got to think. So the Simeon's a good one. Miles is a good one.
And then the defense comes up, and Yelm scores, but then misses the extra point.
Kicking,
so
man.
35-34.
Kicking in the high school game is the difference.
Yeah, for sure. But main takeaways is defense made plays throughout. Struggled a little bit with the RPO, but again, RPO is such a hard offense. Nick Saban's defenses still haven't figured out how to cover.
The 49ers had issues with the RPO yesterday with Kyler Murray. It's just a hard, like you said, it's a hard. It puts so much pressure on the D end or the cornerbacks, or you're reading, and you have to read correctly because basically that D end is in a terrible spot. You go right to the running back. If the quarterback does his job, then he keeps it. You can't choose correctly. Basically, you're basically in a spot where the offense is going to do whatever you don't do. So it's a tough spot for the D end, and if you don't have the speed enough to react, or if you're not, you can't lunge and get there, you can't get there. It's really, really hard. It puts a lot of stress on the guys and all the movement in the motion. And I'm listening to more podcasts about football. I feel like I'm learning more, but all that stuff you see pre-snap is just basically to see what the defense is doing. If you run the guy back and forth, if his corner goes with him, you're in man. And if you're in man in RPO, that's even better for the offense because the offense knows you have every single guy. If you're in zone, then it's better for the defense because the guy's just going to be sitting there waiting. So, they're going to have to figure that out because they get Bethel this week, and we were just doing a little bit of research on Bethel, and let me tell you, Bethel looks like they have some dudes.
First of all, Will Latu.
Yep.
This running
wide
back.
receiver, running back hybrid.
He looks like Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. Or like Tuna. But I think he looks more like Josh Jacobs because you look at his arms, and he's legit, super cut. And, look at Josh Jacobs. He's a shorter back, but he's big up top. He had a couple plays where, he's got speed and he's got strength. And you combine those two, especially at the high school level, it's going to be a...
That's why I say he reminds me of Tuna. Just as a high school-wise, he's a big back, and he's going to break some tackles, and he's got some speed. So, which is good. Which is if we're looking at this we're looking as a positive. They've gone against big back, and they did well against Kamiakin and took care of their business against Kamiakin, and so they know how to tackle big backs. And really comes down to gang tackling. You cannot take this guy on one-on-one, or if you do, you better go low.
Yeah, no arm tackles are not going to bring
work.
This kid down.
He had 3 touchdowns, all 3 of Bethel's touchdowns last week. They also have a guy at linebacker Devontae Holden, who is a beast. He had 4 sacks against Garfield. He comes off the edge, and we were looking at other things. They're quick off the edge. So there's definitely issues for Kennewick to work out. But if they play up to potential, there's no doubt they can hang and they can steal this game on the road. And I do say steal because anytime you go on the road in the playoffs, you're an underdog. It doesn't matter. I know it's a 4-5 matchup. It's a close matchup. But if you go on the road, that's in Vegas terms, that's 3 points.
Yeah.
They give 3 points to the home team. So, they're going to be underdogs, and they just it's going to be physical. And one thing we know about Kennewick is they're physical, and so that's going to play into their hands as well. I like the matchup in the sense that it doesn't look like Bethel's offense is going to just explode. Like, it's not going to be a huge high-scoring game.
They're definitely by 100 cuts. Like, they're definitely going to take their time because they won 21-0. So it's not like they blew this team out. They took their time. They were precise with it, and they made sure that they got the ball to Latu, let Latu do his thing. I think also, like what you said, playing against Tuna and playing against a running back like that favors Kennewick.
Yeah.
Playing an RPO, that doesn't favor them because they're so big and they're so physical that RPOs are so quick and kind of like jerky-herky, and that doesn't play to big defenses. And I think Kennewick, their front seven has been dominant this season. If you just have a running back where you just get him the ball and let him do his work, I think that favors Kennewick. Also, the quick defensive ends, I think that also that favors Kennewick because Elijah Tanner comes in for Blaine Chavez.
They got those big brothers up front.
Yeah. But Elijah doesn't hold the ball very quick. It's a quick 2-3 step drop, and it's out of his hand immediately.
They got to get the ball.
Yeah, and so the defensive ends. We were watching some of the highlights from Bethel this past week in their win.
Round.
The defensive ends are quick, but they come across and they do a little loop.
Yeah, they came back.
Yeah, so like most DNs, you look at some of the best DNs in NFL. They make a quick move and they spin in or they spin out and they come right at the quarterback. Bethel's DNs, they do more of a loop. So if the quarterback's holding the ball longer, eventually their speed is going to allow them to come behind the quarterback and sack him. I don't think that's going to happen with Elijah Tanner because he gets the ball out so quickly, and you got Simeon Howard on the outside. And then you also got Miles in the backfield, who in and of itself is another great running back. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup because Miles, sophomore, 4-star recruit. I don't know how many stars Will Latu is, but two great running backs going at each other. And it looks like these offenses want to establish the run early, and then they'll take their shots later on in the game.
And the way you do that is you keep that offense off the field. You run the ball. Keep running Miles and run Miles for Miles. Yep. And then just keep that offense off the field. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's on the road. I believe it is. Where is this at?
I think it's at Bethel.
It is.
But I don't know. I don't know location
we'll figure this
yet.
out.
We don't have our handy dandy laptop up right now.
I'll find out. You keep talking, I find out.
But yeah, Kennewick has been a gritty team throughout. I talked to Blaine Chavez, who is out. He had a staph infection, and he is recovering. He's going to be good for basketball season, so that's very good to hear that he'll be able to play for basketball season. But I talked to him, and he said his boys were definitely ready for this matchup. And I'm saying this is the game of the year because it was so entertaining. You had offensive plays that were exhilarating and exciting, and defensive plays where they came up big and made great opportunities. And shout out to head coach Randy F. Folter. I mean, first season as the head coach at the Kennewick Lions. Team goes 9-1. Only lost were to the Chiawana Riverhawks early in the season. They haven't lost since week 2. So they've been on a roll. Lost their starting quarterback.
They haven't said the location. It's on the west side, though.
Yeah, so lost their starting quarterback, puts their top receiver in at quarterback, make the adjustments, and they look just as good as they did as they were like week 3 or week 4. So that's, big game this week coming into the 3A.
That is the closest 4-5 matchup. That's one of the closer ones that we have as far as seedings going forward. Number 2A, where we had two teams in it. Not know what that is. Othello lost to Linden, who's a very good team. Early, they're one of the favorites. They lost 41-14. So Othello's out. Good year by them, returning back to the state bracket. And then we have Prosser. Prosser is on a roll. They've won. They have not lost since we started league play.
Yep.
They have undefeated. They had that extra week off last week.
Which we said was going to be huge for them.
Which was huge, and it was huge. They looked like a well-rested team. They started a little slow, but man, Prosser, they got it going, and it wasn't even as close. I thought this was going to be a close game, because it was a 7-12 matchup, something like that. And Eatonville had that big dude that was 6'3", 250 at quarterback. They beat him by 20 points?
Yeah, it was, let's see, 41-23 was the final. It was 20-16 at half, and then Prosser made the adjustments at halftime and outscored them 21-0 in the second. One of the things that we talked about with, resting and getting that bye week is there might be a little bit of rust. And it seemed like there was a little bit of rust. There was an early safety in the first quarter, and then it's 20-16 at halftime. You're kind of feeling each other out. And then you made the adjustments in the second half. 21-0, like I said, in the second half, they outscored them 41-23. Logan Candenosa is going to be the key to them, I feel like, going forward.
On both sides of the ball.
Yeah, he's extremely he's extremely talented on the defensive side, but he's such a good running back. You look at him and you don't really think like, oh, this is like a big-time running back. He's kind of undersized. He's not the fastest out there, but he's quick. He's smart. He makes good reads, and
he's physical too.
I think he's going to be the key to Prosser.
He's been playing a lot of varsity football for a long time. So yeah, and on defense, we don't talk about the Prosser defense enough. They held them to 20 to 16 at half. Is that what you said? So like they came back out in the second half and just really held on to Eatonville and didn't let them go anywhere. I'm just really impressed by Prosser and what they've done and kind of the adjustments they've done. Another team that's endured some injuries, but it's next man up. It's always next man up for them. They played at TRIfecta. That was a huge deal for them to get a home game. They haven't had a home state playoff game in a lot of years. Someone said over 10. So that was cool to see them back at TRIfecta. And
field was kind of torn up, though.
Yeah.
Not going to lie. Field was torn up. It was old school, like football, but that's always entertaining to watch. Yeah, all these kids get these all nice AstroTurf fields, man. Back in my day, that I didn't play football, but back in my day, they were all grass fields. It didn't matter what you were running on. You just played. But yeah, so Prosser wins. They advance, and now they get number 2 Steilacoom. And man, they've got a guy.
They're going air raid, so it's going to be air raid, kind of RPO on RPO. But they got a dude.
His top 10 schools are Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, UW, Stanford, Oklahoma. This dude basically is going to go wherever he wants to go. What's the kid's name?
Emeka Ubaka.
He is a 5-star athlete. He's the top athlete in the 2021 class, right?
Top athlete as distinction, yeah.
So top athlete, which basically
number 8
means
overall.
He just plays any position.
They don't know where he's going to play yet. He just is an athlete, and they know they're going to use him.
We saw him at receiver. We saw him in the backfield. We saw him in Wildcat. We saw him all over the field on defense. When you go up against kids like this, the only thing that you really can do is throw multiple guys at him. 2-3 guys at him, and then let somebody else beat you.
Yeah.
Because he's a big kid, too. Like, he's big. He runs a 4.4 40. He's just, he's an athlete. That's what he's labeled as, and he's the number 1 athlete in the class of 2021. So, looking at the Prosser Mustangs defensively, they're very good. We saw them make the adjustments. Right now, they're definitely going to plan for this one guy. The quarterback, he looks pretty good. It looks like he gets the ball out of his hand pretty quickly. He makes good reads. But I haven't seen any plays where he threw to anybody but this kid.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is it's kind of like Richland this season. Like, Ben Fuel's your dude, and get it to him any way possible. So the way you do that is, one, you got to jam at the line. The highlights we were watching, the corners were like 10 yards off
him. All he's going to do is put a slant across your face and get 10 yards and then get upfield. Yeah. I don't know if that's the defense they were running. It must have been the defense they were running, but I feel like you've got to get up on him.
Yeah, you got to put a corner. You got to have a corner jam him
until he at least beats you.
Yeah, because the corner, like when you got an athlete like that, jamming him is only going to work for so long. But what you're going to do is you're going to jam him at the line so you can't get the quick slant. Put the safety over top, and if you need to, bring a outside linebacker a little bit in so he can't run that slant if he breaks off the corner when he's jamming it. So you got to throw multiple guys at him. It looks like the quarterback is, he's talented enough to make some plays, but watching that one kid, Emeka, what's his last name?
Egbukka.
Emeka. He's a very talented kid, and it's going to be interesting to see how Prosser. I feel like they're a team of adjustments.
And I think if the Mustangs, for anyone like going against Richland, you try and make anybody else beat you. Anybody else.
Yeah.
You try and take this kid away. The problem with this kid, and kudos to their coach, they give you a bunch of different looks with him.
Yeah.
So you can't he's going to go wide receiver. He's going to be out wide. They're going to put him in the slot. They're going to put him out wide. They're going to put him in the backfield. They're going to do a direct snap to him. He's going to be all over the field. And that is something that I think if Richland is going to go watch this tape or look at things, that's what they need to do with Ben Fuel. That's another topic that I've already kind of touched on. But that's the hard thing about it, is when you line a top-tier athlete at multiple different spots, it's harder to cover because you're not going to just say, oh, he's outside.
Yeah.
So, but if Prosser can take him away as much as humanly possible, he's going to get his.
Yeah.
He's a 5-star dude.
You're not going to shut dudes down. It's slowing them down.
So,
that's the key.
Just in perspective, he has 49 catches for 1,100 yards. Ben, the top receiver in the MCC,
had 89 for 1,200.
For 1,200, so almost double the amount of catches. So he's going to get his, and he's going to break away at some point. But you just can't let it happen all game long.
Yeah.
And I think, so with that being said, you got to have your guys working in tandem. Your pass rush has to get to him. Can't give the quarterback any time. So you got to get the pass rush to him. It's a tough matchup for Prosser. It's a tough matchup for Prosser. But on the other side, we didn't see anything. We didn't really look at the defense because we're so fired up about this guy. But Prosser's got to take advantage, and they've been able to score points, and they've been opportunistic, and they've made the plays when they've needed to. And behind Logan Candenoza, you got Will Thompson, you got Weinman out there, younger guy too, and then you have Caden Rivera, sophomore, who's playing outstanding. Man, I don't think we've given Caden enough love either. Sophomore, there's a lot of sophomore kids that in 2 years.
Yeah, in 2 years, the quarterback class in this area, I mean, I don't know where they'll go play college, but I can tell you that in a couple of years, there's going to be elite passing games going on in this area because we got young quarterbacks getting legitimate experience in playoffs, which is really what you want these young quarterbacks to get, to put them in situations where they can make reads and then look back on them in the future. It's going to be a very good matchup. It'll be interesting to see the adjustments that Prosser makes. Let's go over to 1A, where
1A.
I actually don't want to start with the number 1 seed. I want to start with Connell.
Upset!
Going on the road, 13
I do believe, if we could roll back the tape, if we have it somewhere, I'm pretty sure I said on Monday last week that to watch out for this game because I think Connell might upset him. Let's try and find that tape.
I'll try to find it, and we'll try to put it in there. You definitely called it. They go on the road, 17-7, get a big victory over Los Center. And do we have the location? Are we still waiting on?
We're still waiting, but I did text this for next round. They're going to take on. They're taking on
Mount Baker.
Mount Baker, and we do not know the location. But since they did pull the upset, we do know this. The WIAA rewards upsets in the opening round, so Connell is going to be technically the home team. So it's going to be on the east side somewhere. Coach Wayne Reiner, I texted him this morning. He said it looks like Moses Lake. At this moment, when we're taping this, it's about lunchtime, so we don't know for sure if that's going to stay. But Moses Lake, time was to be determined, and some other details too that I don't want to kind of put out there because I don't know if it's going to become true. But I do know he said Moses Lake most likely. Okay. On Saturday, probably.
What is your take on the WIAA's decision to allow teams that go upset, giving them home playoffs?
I like it when it's our teams. But overall, I think I don't know. I see both sides of it. I see hey, if you go and upset, you've earned another home game. But I also see didn't those teams that were the top 7 or top 8 in the state or in your bracket earn their seeding all year long? So why don't you just give, because they're taking on Mount Baker, who's the number 5 seed. Didn't Mount Baker do enough to earn that 5 seed? So shouldn't they be a home seed throughout playoffs if they're the higher seed? So I see both ways. But I think overall, most places, they just give the home team to the higher seed.
Yeah, I don't like it because exactly what you said, it basically negates the regular season. It basically just says it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season, doesn't matter if you go undefeated and work your tail off all season, if another team, which you have nothing to control over that other game, if some other team that didn't play as well as you in the regular season upsets another team that you're not even involved in, you lose a home game.
Yeah, and you take care of business obviously in the first round too. It's not because you can't lose, but you took care of business, so why are the other team being rewarded? And maybe you took care of business against a harder team or whatever it may be. But, I'll take it. It's easy. It's easier for us, and it means we're getting some Connell highlights this weekend one way or another, which is really cool. Shout out to Wayne Reiner and his crew for going on the road, upsetting, winning by 10. And when Connell can keep the score down, and it doesn't get out of hand because I don't think they have the offense that's super explosive that's going to score a ton of points on a really good defense, a playoff-style defense, they're going to be in games. Yeah,
so shootouts are definitely something that they want to avoid. If they can play old-school football where long drives and, the defense comes big in the red zone, I think that favors them. So shout out to Connell. We'll have them on Saturday. Royal just keeps being Royal, wins 64-7 against Charles Wright. You were out there in God's country before you get to the game. How cold is it out in Royal?
It was cold. Comparatively, I think it wasn't as cold, but I still couldn't feel my fingers. Like, it was really cold. It got colder as the night went on, obviously, because that's how, Mother Nature works. But it wasn't super cold. I don't know. It was probably like 35 degrees instead of 30. It was still really cold.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's still freezing.
So yeah, Royal. I was out there. It's a fun atmosphere. I love going out to Royal. When I talk to Wiley, I talk about it. Like, there's not a whole lot out there. There's like nothing. I mean, it's farm town. It's corn-fed kids. But you roll into the city right there. It tells you all the state championships. There's 8 of them. And then you go into the stadium. They have banners everywhere. There's 8 of them. Like, it just has this aura. Has like.
Kind of reminds you like a Friday Night Light vibe, where like
Yeah.
this small town has this successful football team, and the whole city.
Like, you're gonna, and I think for teams that come in, you feel it. Like, I feel it as someone covering the team. Like, they just know they're really good, and they're gonna be really good no matter what. So Charles Wright Academy comes in, and actually Royal kind of started slow. They go 4 and out, I think, on their first series. Nothing's really working. They get a touchdown. But then they score 2 in 40 seconds, and it was 20-0. And then obviously from there on, it's just they run away with it. And they score 57 in the first half, 57-0. Running clock is on. They end up winning 64-7. C cubed, as I like to call it, is one of the best wide receiver quarterback combos in the state. And I don't care what level you're at. Caleb Christensen and Cooper Christensen could play at any level. I firmly believe that because Cooper gets open, he breaks away from tackles, and then Caleb can put the ball in it. And Caleb can spin it. As far as he's still a junior, can get a little more arm strength, but he can spin it. I love watching him throw the ball. So I really think there's an argument to be made. They're one of the better tandems in the state. I know there's a lot of good guys out there, but it doesn't matter what level. And then you have Lorenzo Myrick, who I feel like I've been saying his name for 3 years. And now he's getting his really big opportunity at running back, and he's breaking it free and back-to-back games. I put a little highlight rip of him online. He had an interception, a huge hit that jarred the ball out, a couple runs. He's fun to watch, and then the defense just keeps doing defense things. Like, this is what happened. This is how they scored their first touchdown. Actually, I shouldn't say it was a 3. I shouldn't say they didn't score on their first possession because they did. Charles Wright Academy tries to punt the ball. They can't punt it. So it's recovered on like the 2-yard line, and then Myrick scores. That was their first possession. And I would say their first full possession, it wasn't so hot. So they were up 7-0 for a while, and then it kind of got away from them. And then when I'm walking out to my car,
they score.
40-yarder over the top for C cubed. And so I was kind of bummed about that. But yeah, Royal just keeps going. We kind of knew this would happen. They're outscoring their opponents at home in the first round of the state playoffs they've hosted last 7 years. They're beating by 306 points. So they win the first round.
Point differential with this team is just like
second
so
round.
unfair.
I was talking to Wiley before, and he says, "You keep telling us that we're big." And I say, like, comparatively to 1A, they look like a big team. He's like, but we're not really that big. So he worries or has concerns or challenges, I would say, against front lines that will be able to match up with them. And as we get later in the playoffs, guys get a little bit bigger. The front lines are going to match up a little bit better or give at least Royal a little bit more challenge. But I don't know if guys at that level have enough dudes to cover all their dudes.
No, that's how you combat big front sevens. They're slower. So you got a running back like Lorenzo Myrick, just get him the ball, toss sweep, let him get outside.
Aldo Farias is fast.
Yeah.
He had a touchdown over the seam and then just broke away. And then you have Cooper.
Yeah, and then you have you call him C cubed.
Yeah, and then you have Tyler Allred. Like, you have dudes.
Yeah, so like I can see the concern for bigger teams, but speed can beat bigger teams, and speed is definitely what they have. And like we said earlier, a quarterback that has precision passing can put it on his receiver's chests and put it in places where only the receiver can make a play on the ball. That's how you combat it, and that's exactly what Royal has.
And they have Carter Dorsey too. I want to also say Charles Wright was having trouble throwing the ball. Like, it just was ducking out of the guy's hand, and by duck I mean like it was not a perfect spiral. But Caleb was throwing the ball fine. So that's how you can tell who is a better quarterback. And coming in, so I was told that Charles Wright could throw the ball. Didn't look like it.
Yeah.
Anyways, they get Omak. on Saturday. As of right now, it's been announced. It's Saturday, 2 p.m. at David Nielsen Memorial. I was hoping for the Colville rematch. I was hoping because then we would see the Mount Baker rematch. We could still maybe, which is semifinals, we have a potential.
If Connell
wins,
Baker
is great because then we have the SCAC rematch, all the history that goes with it. They've met in the playoffs before. If Mount Baker does, Royal beat Mount Baker last year in the quarters in this round coming into it, and they beat them kind of handily, but Wiley even said that game was closer then. So we have a rematch there. I was really hoping for the Colville rematch. I just thought it would be kind of poetic justice and you know Royal wanted that game.
Oh, for sure, without a doubt. You always want to get revenge, and you always want to get something that juices you up a little bit more. And having gone up against the team that had beat you, that definitely would have got them up and energetic.
Yeah, and they would have had to go to their place. It wouldn't have been a neutral field. They would have had to go to their place. But on that said, Colville, the defending champs, state champs, are out, so we're going to have a new 1A state champion.
Yep.
Could be Royal.
So last bit of football business before we get to volleyball, 2B playoffs. We talked a little bit about being upset that Tri-Cities Prep did not get a home game, but that did not affect the Jaguars because they went on the road, beat Asotin 37-0, so they pitched the shutout, and they are set to take on the number 1 seed in the 2B. But looking at that game highlights, TCP, it looked like they were not phased. They were excited to go on the road and silence a crowd and send a home crowd home, sad and
they returned the favor. 2 years ago, Asotin came same round, came to TCP. TCP was the higher seed, and the Panthers took that game. Well, now 2 years, fast forward a couple of years later, TCP does the same exact thing, and it was more dominant, 37-0. That's a huge statement. I mean, you go on the road. They weren't happy about the 9 seed. I can just tell you that. Like, they just weren't happy. They thought they were at least a home team. Like, they at least thought they were one of the top 8 teams in the state, and they didn't get it. But sometimes you need that. You need something to put a bigger chip on your shoulder.
Yep.
Let's go out and prove people wrong. And then Elliott was great for them. So was Amato. They were all over the field. And then Dante Mairi was doing his thing, Landon Amato, and their defense was getting to the quarterback. Yeah. And they just had no answer for that. So now they do have to go take on Alaska. They don't get a home game. I don't even know where Alaska is.
Yeah, I have no idea. Saw the name.
Is it Alaska? I got dad jokes.
Potentially. The Loggers are 10-0 this season. They beat Brewster 60-7. So looking at the numbers, my anticipation, my prediction for this game is it's going to be a lot of points going to be put on this board.
Because TCP played Brewster too, and they beat them by a similar score.
So I think both of these teams, they like to put points on the board. Smaller schools at this point, so it's always going to come down to who's more healthy, who's going to be able to game plan for the other. But Coach Whitsett is a very good coach, and I anticipate him to have a good game plan. Defensively, I don't think we also don't talk about TCP defensively.
Right.
They had at some point like 20-some interceptions. It might be up in 30 at this point. They're very disciplined in that they know that they have to be in certain spots at certain times, and they're very opportunistic on the defensive side. So I think, we talk about Dante Mairi and Landon Amato on the offensive side. Landon also plays defense and had 11 interceptions, might have more at this point. And so they're very opportunistic on defense, which is going to be important to go against this number 1 team in the Loggers.
The one thing that'll neutralize that as we were looking at things is on Alaska, the Loggers don't like to throw the ball.
Yeah, I think they ran for like 400-something yards.
Early in the season, they took on a midi, and they ran it for 410. They passed the ball 4 times with 1 completion for 10 yards. So if there's anything that we've kind of seen is that the EWAC loves to spread it out. They love to score points. You got Liberty Christian that likes to do that. All the other teams, Columbia tries to spread you out a little bit. They'll run the ball a little bit more, but they're a high-flying offense. It's more RPO, air raid. When those schools go against the other District 6 or what other districts, I don't even know what it is, they like to run the ball. And historically, we've seen kind of a struggle against those type of teams because they just don't play them all that much. They aren't ready against them. But Coach Whitsett has scheduled more teams that run the ball like that all year long to hopefully have these guys better prepared when they hit them. But yeah, we'll see. That's going to be a huge thing because if they don't throw the ball, all those interceptions are
away.
negated.
But like you said, they did play a team earlier in the season. I can't remember who it was, but I remember they ran a wishbone offense, and TCP was very disciplined. And they were, this team they had to start throwing the football because they couldn't run it on them. So I think that, I can't remember what game it is. I'll have to go back and figure out which game it was. But scheduling that game was huge because I feel like they were able to, at least get a taste of what kind of offense that
Man, if number 9 knocks off number 1, wow.
Then we get a home playoff game because the WIA does
Yeah,
a
we
weird
get a home playoff game. So that would probably be either at Lamson, well, it will be, I would say, either at Lamson or Edgar Brown.
Yeah, one of those two.
Because because you also have now, at that point in the semifinals, you have to have WIAA approved sites, and I do know those are both WIAA approved sites, and they're neutral fields because TCP doesn't play on them.
Yeah.
I guess you could go to another turf field, but I don't know where you'd go.
Rather they do them at Edgar Brown or Lamson. So that wraps up all our football content from the day. Now quickly to go into volleyball for the Richland Bombers suffered their first loss of the season against Meade this past weekend, which means that it was again, for the third time this season, the Richland Bombers and the Chiawana Riverhawks. We always talked about
it went to 4 sets, right?
Yeah, went to 4 sets, and Richland got the victory. You were a little concerned because it's very hard to beat a team, twice in a season, let alone 3 times. But I think Richland, that loss to Meade was a true wake-up call because they had just, they didn't roll over everybody, but they were undefeated, and so they felt like they could beat anybody. Getting humbled like that can do one or two things. It can kind of break you, because you're like, oh crap, we lost our first game, what do we do? Or it can be like, okay, we're not as great as we thought we are. We need to lock down, and that's what they did. Beat Chiawana for the 3rd time this season in 4 sets, which means that the 2nd seed in the D8 districts, and they were going to be taking on North Creek on Friday at 1:30 out in Yakima in the state playoffs.
Yeah, and this was a good weekend for Chiu. I mean, historically, Meade's a good team. A couple years ago, they won the state title. So their coach is like a legend out there. So Meade is it's a good program. It's not like they just win and lost to a team that they should have beat. I mean, maybe they would have said that they should have beat Meade. But Meade is a good program. They go take care, getting that win against Chiawana, because Chiawana is a state caliber team. I think at this year, the GSL, the District 8 could have had 3 really good teams to go. Like last year, Chiawana went too as well, because they both went to this final game. But to beat a team that is as good as Riverhawks are, to get into the bracket, I think that only builds back up that confidence that might have slipped just a little bit when you lose to Meade. So now they go on face North Creek, who I'm pretty sure they played last year in the state bracket. So they're going to go play a familiar foe. That opening round game is huge in this bracket type play of how it's all formatted. If you lose that first game, you don't have any chance at a state title.
Yeah.
Any chance. And like for me, as an athlete, I think that'd be pretty hard to kind of, okay, let's go win 3 games to get 4th.
Yeah.
Great.
It's not exactly.
Not exactly.
Playing for 3rd and 4th, you're just not as juiced up. You're just
No.
kind of like, whatever, this is just going to be like whatever.
Yeah, so they got to win this first game. It's at 1:30, which also helps them. I know in the last couple years they've played early games, like 9:30, which is when Kennewick's playing, which we'll get to that. And that's hard. Like, just wake up, grab some coffee, and let's go. They probably don't even drink coffee, but I don't know.
I don't know. High
Dutch
schoolers,
Bros,
let's say.
Dutch Mafia, Roasters, they probably do. But yeah, so in this whole thing with them, we weren't there for the Meade game. I don't know kind of how it kind of unfolded, but it's going to come down to serving for Richland, as it has been all year. If their serving is tough on the opposing serve-receive, that they get their offensive system out of rhythm, that's very good for Richland. They're not the best blocking team in the world. They have some hitters, but if they can put pressure and keep their opposition from running their style of offense they like to run, it's easier that way. So we'll find out. We have some things kind of in our heads about how we're going to cover this bad boy. We will get opening round games and kind of go from there. And so if you want some special coverage,
keep it on
just
keeper.
Winning. Just win. Just win, baby.
Moving on to the 3A, Kennewick versus Kamaikan early Saturday morning. Winner is in. Loser season ends. Went to 5 sets,
Yep.
Which means that both of these teams desperately wanted to go to state, and it came down to just being gritty. And that's what I feel like every single athletic team out of Kennewick High School is. You can just label every single team as gritty, and that's exactly what they are. Earlier in the season, Kamaikan beat Kennewick at home, in which the Lions went up 2-0, and then blew the 2-0 lead, and Kamaikan came back. This was different. Kamaikan went up 1-0, Kennewick won the next 2. Kamiakin wins game 3, and then it was decided in game 5, and the Lions came away victorious.
And that was back-to-back wins because I think they won the second. Lions won the second meeting as well.
Yeah, I believe so. I think they won the one at Kennewick. So, the Kennewick Lions, great season by the Braves, by the way. But Kennewick will play at 9:45 against Lakeside, a team up in Seattle. I don't know much about them, but
Haven't seen them play.
It'll be an interesting matchup to see. But it is very cool to see one of our teams again represented in the state playoff. And the thing about Kennewick is they're going to make adjustments, and they are going to try to make the right plays. They have, Autumn Larson.
Autumn Larson, yeah.
Big time blocker, sophomore, extremely talented. I'm trying to think of the other name. The Grace Morby. They got these girls like this that are very kind of. Yeah, Michaela Mangum also, by the way, almost ended my life.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was
quick hands on your part.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be an athlete. She smacked one right at the camera, and I didn't know. I was like, part of me was like, okay, save yourself, but also this is gonna be a cool shot. I don't know how it turned out, but it'll be interesting to see how the Lions can fare this weekend.
And I want to shout out Coach Brandy Sonderland. She's been there for a couple years now, and before she got there, the Kennewick program was not super competitive, and she's turned that around. She won Coach of the Year a couple years ago, and now she has the team back in the state playoffs. So big accomplishment for them, and let's see what they can do. They're going to be the underdogs, I think, because they're one of the last teams in. But if you go upset or Lakeside and you get that first win at 9:45 in the morning, like I said, that first win in this bracket, or like baseball, they're all the same. Soccer, especially soccer, because I think you're out. But you just got to win that game. Because it just takes everything out of you. If you get there and then you lose that first one, a lot of times you're probably going to lose that next one because it's hard to rebound. So 9:45, 3A, 4A are both up at the Yakima Sundome. We'll have highlights, and we're going to see where all that shakes out. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're almost hitting about an hour.
Let's shout out TCP came in 4th.
Yeah, TCP came in 4th, so shout out to them for ending the season on a strong note. We're almost near an hour, so
let's just wrap.
Quickly, just talk about the AMs. They had a very successful road trip up in Canada. Lost to the Spokane Chiefs 4-3 at the Toyota Center on Saturday night. Very competitive matchup between these two rivals, and it was the most packed I've seen the Toyota Center
all
season.
For Spokane.
Everybody was in there. There was only I looked out and it was panning across the stadium, and not a lot of empty seats out there, which is cool to see the fans come out there. They got a big week ahead. Quickly talking about Whitman basketball, you've seen them more than I have. They're 2-1 to start the year. They have 2 games in the 100s, and that just tells me that they can put up a lot of points, but also they can let up a lot of points.
Yeah, but Saturday it looked like their defense was a lot better. So, and just looking at things, their defense had not been super good the first 2 games. The second game was against St. Thomas, and I know we're going to try and make this quick. It was a top 25 D3 matchup, though. That's a good matchup early on in the year, your preseason, and it went down to the wire. Their defense wasn't super good. Their free throws weren't super good that game. They came back against Cal Lutheran, and from what I saw, their press was the best it's been all year in forcing turnovers, so their defense is getting better. And yeah, you lose that top 25 team, but it's early in the year. It's not like college football where you lose one and you're done. The Northwest Conference doesn't have a bunch of bids into the NCAA tournament, but it's early on. They can still rebound. We will keep track, but they don't come home. Looking at their schedule, they don't come home for a home game until January. So if you didn't see them this weekend,
sorry.
Good luck seeing them. They'll be back in January.
Yeah, defense is definitely going to have to be something that they focus on.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to get down there.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Quickly, because we haven't done one of these in a long time. You got Disney Plus. I got Disney Plus. Almost everybody's got Disney Plus. Quickly, 2 episodes of The Mandalorian are up on Disney Plus. Thoughts, impressions, shockers. Spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't watched. So if you haven't watched, turn it off right now. We're going to talk real quickly about
it's also called the Baby Yoda show.
Yeah, which we
don't know who it is, but I don't know. I think it is Yoda. Mick doesn't think it's Yoda.
Well, the thing is, the timeline is set after Return of the Jedi, right?
Right, but they said they age differently.
Yeah, but the baby's 50 years old.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
maybe it's an offspring of Yoda.
This is my off the wall, and you know how I have a lot of really hot takes that don't make a lot of sense. I think that Yoda, before he died, manipulated the midichlorians and created another version of himself. And
he spawned himself.
Yeah.
That would make sense to me. But also, It also is weird because I don't know if they're keeping this. I mean, you got to keep it within the Star Wars universe. So doesn't what's her name? Rey. Rey. She sees like a hologram Yoda, right?
No. The Yoda comes back as in a ghost.
Right.
To Luke. In The Last Jedi. Yeah.
All right. So moral of the story is, because I get kind of confused, he does appear again as ghost form.
Yeah.
So how, if it is Yoda, how are they going to make it all work?
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is the Mandalorian's like...
It's really good.
It's really good. The guy, the Mandalorian is... He got beat up by some Jawas in the second episode.
He's one of the princes from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
I heard it's apparently a lot of Game of Thrones characters are like making appearances in Star Wars movies. Like
Daenerys.
Yeah, like there's a lot of, I don't know what the crossover is, but it's a really good show. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's on Disney Plus.
Can't have our login, so sorry. Gotta figure it out a different way. Unless you,
We can work out a deal.
We can work out a deal.
That's a good podcast. Almost about an hour of content, so we'll have the rundown.
Also, he's never seen Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
Who is this kid?
Guys, Disney Plus is gonna,
Children,
I said Disney Plus and chill, but like somebody said Disney Plus and commitment, so I think that's
I guess it's probably a little bit more.
Yeah, it's like more family friendly. So
it's really family friendly.
So time to watch Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Boy Meets World. I'm gonna watch it for the very first time. Get on Disney Plus.
I watched the first 2 episodes and it still like kind of resonates now.
Does it still hit home a little bit?
It hits home, but like the jokes are still kind of funny. I don't know. It's good.
I'm excited to watch. It'll be a first time watch.
Gotta watch Boy Meets World before Girl Meets World.
Yeah,
which is a spin-off.
I don't think I'll ever watch that. But Boy Meets World, definitely watch it. For Alan Hoshida, I'm Mick Miller. Happy Monday.
Good luck,
Tune into
y'all.
the podcast every week.
Shoot, sorry.